AI podcast. We are talking about a series here called Long Story Short. And today I have the distinct privilege to talk to John Anthony, the CEO and founder of Ivity AI. And we're going to talk to him today just about why jump into the AI space, why now, and what's the focus. Come with us on this long story short journey here with John. John, as we kind of kick off here, I really, I've had the conversation with you, and I feel like it's a really compelling story as to why you started Ivity AI. Tell our listeners, a little bit about you and about why you kind of jumped into this journey.
All right, Andy. Good morning. Yeah, happy to do that. First of all, I think I'd like to point out to the audience that I've never done a podcast in my life. So, so
Fair.
if this seems unscripted or maybe a little unprofessional, all those things are probably fair. To answer your question, though, as you know, I've always been in technology. So that has been my background. And for the listeners that don't know me, I've always been in technology. I've worked for large Fortune 500 tech companies. I've worked for smaller, medium-sized tech companies. But my sort of specialty has always been on the revenue side. I've always worked with the sales organization, I would say with a specialty in either some sort of correcting some sort of issue or just scale. I mean, those are the two places where I've traditionally wound up and been called to help. So I'm grateful for those opportunities. In terms of my personal approach, while I've always been in technology, interestingly enough, technology really isn't my main interest. In life, nor business for that matter. I view it as a means to an end, which I think some of the reason that we've had good success in the different places where I've been is that we've been able to connect more to the outcome than the tech. And I think I'm a good translator there precisely because I don't care quite as much about the bits and bytes. I care more about the dollars and cents.
And where we worked before, right? It was about agnostic, right? It wasn't we're coming to you with one solution. It was let's talk about your problem and find the right solution. And that was kind of a unique setting where we met actually.
Yeah, it was, and I think that consultative approach is, hopefully somewhat ubiquitous in the marketplace. But I have felt like one of the things that we've done fairly well is translating that technical solution into, quite frankly, financial language that a CFO can, pick up a piece of paper, read the document, know exactly what problem's being solved without a lot of tech speak, why it's important, and then what it's going to do for the bottom line.
Right.
At the end of the day, I have always felt like my job is to be that translator from tech to financial.
Nice. So why AI? Why at this point? So you've been in some large companies, you've done well for yourself and run regions in sales. Why entrepreneurial type, work and at this point, and specifically in AI, the hotbed of what's going on in the world of talk, right? Not just tech.
By accident, mostly. Honestly, I've always had an entrepreneurial itch. But, having spent so much time in tech, after, I was with an organization that, we were able to scale, and this business sold to another organization. And, that gave me an opportunity to really think about what it was I wanted to do. And the fact is, I want to do a list of things.
Sure.
But I got involved in a business around real estate initially. And I got to the real estate business because I became interested in tax and and how to reduce tax burden and liability, which led me to real estate. And then I wound up not even in a sector of real estate where you would get those tax advantages. Interestingly enough, it was just more of a personal interest. But nevertheless, I had the go-to-market was heavily reliant on mail outreach as part of it, and these folks would call in. So I had a service, an answering service, a call center, whereby these folks would have a script. They would take the information from the people on the other end, and we automated the process whereby that information would go into a CRM, a customer relationship management tool.
Okay.
That said, so about the same period of time, I paid for some education around AI. It was with someone who was specifically in the sector. It was I don't know, 8 or 10 week program, and quite frankly, I was blown away. I was absolutely blown away. I had no idea what this technology could do. And if I guess the way that I looked at it was if I've been in technology my entire life, or since I've been in the working world,
Mm-hmm.
and I was so surprised by all of the applications for this technology, then there's a pretty good chance I feel like that there would be a lot of business owners that would be equally surprised and also want to take advantage.
Yeah.
And so, as an example, in my business, one of the first applications was this call center that I mentioned. Um, I wasn't necessarily dissatisfied with the call center folks that I had deployed.
Mm-hmm.
However, the results were a little bit inconsistent. Like if you listen to these calls,
Sure.
lots of different people, lots of different approaches, um, lots of variability around the quality of the discussion. And then, but to no fault of these folks, um, there were just lots of things they didn't know.
Right.
So if the person on the other end asked a question like, where's your business based? Or um, really basic things.
Right.
That they didn't necessarily know. And I found that a little bit embarrassing, honestly. Um, and I ran across a solution whereby I could automate voice agent that
Mm-hmm.
sounded every bit as good as the call center folks. And I could arm that AI agent, this voice agent, with a complete knowledge base of all the things that are important in the
Right.
business. So all of our standard operating procedures, all of our branding and how we go to market and the values and the things that are important to our business.
Mm-hmm.
This automated agent knows all of that and can speak fluently uh, with someone on the other end. And
And
so,
consistently, right? You
and
mentioned
can,
consistency in the earlier part.
and
Yeah.
consistently. And so, I was blown away by that. And I have been blown away by, or I guess I didn't really understand. Quite frankly, I think a lot of people, as I did in the early days, use AI like Google.
Right.
It's very basic sort of search. But for me, just in business, just one application is that it's a corporate brain.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mentioned, all of the standard operating procedures, which is generally in a big binder collecting dust that the new guy reads or a gal when they come in,
Yeah.
all of a sudden is live. So, as an example, the people in this business can go to a prompt and say, "Ask John," and the thing knows. It doesn't know everything, but it knows generally my approach to things, my tone,
Right.
how I speak with people, and it will mirror those things and provide the correct information. Well, from a training and development perspective, from an onboarding perspective, you know, that that's really valuable.
Yeah.
Um, so when I discovered those things, and And now that I've started a company or two, and I understand the challenges of being a business owner, um, I just had my belief is that the term AI is used broadly, liberally.
Hmm.
It's ill-defined, just like cloud was years ago. There's a lot of confusion in the market. Um, there are new tech stacks that are being released every day. And even for the early adopters, I think there's a pretty decent risk of engaging with a provider that is really more tech focused and maybe more oriented around a specific solution or two.
Right.
And for me as a business owner, even someone who's been in technology, there's a pretty frightening scenario whereby the business owner gets left with this sort of component that addresses one thing in the business that doesn't necessarily play well with other components in the business, or is um, not well positioned for what's coming in the future,
Hmm.
may inadvertently move the customer backwards strategically. Um, and
Yeah.
I guess I would back up just a little and say, you know, part of the joy for me of being in sales on the sales side of things in technology is that not only were we able to um, interact with a lot of different clients and see a lot of different types of problems and how those get solved, and of course, then you can share that, not the details, but you can
Right.
share the learnings across, which is valuable for someone who's in their business every day and they don't get to see a lot of different situations. But the same would apply across the business units. So one of the things I always found interesting was that we could go into a business, and if we could help be the connective tissue between finance, HR, sales, marketing, these businesses are heavily siloed. So even
Right.
if you could just be a connector,
Yeah.
that's huge. Um, so I view the opportunity here the same way. My perspective is that the opening in the market, or at least the one that I would like for us to fill, is that we've assembled a team of people that are cross-functional,
Yeah.
across revenue, um, finance, tech. I think the fact that we have those skill sets within the company is a differentiator. So we can be a true partner to a client
Yeah.
and make sure that we're thinking strategically across all the different silos as opposed to just a point situation.
Yeah. So
Uh,
that's
yeah.
that goes to an interesting point. So I think, to summarize kind of your history and kind of why is it was out of necessity, right? For your own business that you attached yourself to this, found that it was extremely valuable, and had the realization that, wow, there's a lot of people out there that we could be helping with this journey in a similar way that may not have the technical teams that are rallying around, right? We're not talking about the P&Gs of the world that literally have armies of people that are looking at AI, but there are companies like, ours, companies that really just they need that view, but they also just don't need a point solution for one thing. They need an understanding of how it impacts their entire organization. And then you've taken that to the next level from just a tech perspective and said, now how do we help a company with, wow, their valuation, right? How do we help a company grow and scale and think strategically about how this applies to what they're doing at a baseline? Right? They're limping along, or they're doing their business, but they're so potentially siloed in where they're doing because they're just busy. Now we can try to come in as a strategic partner with them and see how does that AI go across, but how do we also now help them with efficiencies and automations? How do we help understand how that impacts their bottom line, not just solving a niche problem that somebody's irritated with? Is that fair summary?
Yeah, no, it's fair, and you bring up a couple interesting points there as well. One is technology and AI is not the business of the people that need the technology. I mean, they don't have the
Right.
time to go and do all of this research, and nor would I. I mean, what I would be looking for is a partner that can come in and just do it. Just
Yeah.
like don't come and tell me what to do. Don't, you know, these business owners, they don't necessarily know what the problem is or if there is a problem, because a lot of times it's not a problem, it's just opportunity.
Right.
And so I guess what I would highlight is, hey, our go-to-market approach is all financially oriented.
Hmm.
These solutions that we're bringing to market have an ROI, have massive ROIs.
Yeah.
So, they're well justified. One of the more interesting components of all of this, from my perspective, is what you mentioned around valuation. Now, every company doesn't have an interest here. I
Sure.
understand, um, but a lot do. And one of the things that I've realized over time, through my own experience, and I've done different type of consulting work and so forth, is that a lot of times, especially small business, or even medium-sized businesses, a lot of times these folks aren't well schooled and educated on all of the ins and outs of M&A activity.
Right.
If they're an HVAC company, they're an HVAC company. They know HVAC. That's what they do.
Hmm.
Right? They may have some general business. I'm not saying they're not business oriented, but
Yeah.
they're probably not doing mergers and acquisitions every day.
Right.
Um, and we have a team of people that is well that is very well educated on that component.
Hmm.
Well, one of the things that I've discovered is, these business owners many times leave millions of dollars on the table at time of closing because they're unaware that there's a premium in terms of valuation when businesses have automation and less employee dependency, especially, I mean, you have key employee dependency, which I think
Sure.
everyone sort of, everyone knows about,
Hmm.
but just dependency on people in general. If the more technology that you have deployed, the less risk that you have from a human capital perspective.
Right.
And that can equate to lots of money in terms of valuation. So these folks either leave that money on the table because they're unaware, and then the next buyer comes in and implements that technology, by the
Right.
way, as an immediate way to increase value, or they get an advisor when it's time to sell, and then they push their date back 12 to 18 months while they go and they implement all these technologies.
Because it's too late at this point, right? And if I want to get
This
the bang for the buck, I'm going to have to put this stuff in, and that's going to take some time.
Right. So, really, the way that I hope that we can position with at least a subset of clients is, hey, let us help you with sort of the end in mind there, even if it's not, you're not thinking about selling today, like that's when we should be having the discussion.
Right.
Let's put things in place that give you an immediate ROI and these tactical benefits, but let's build them strategically in such a way that we're always looking at the valuation, that's what we have in mind at the end, because that's where the bigger dollars are.
Well, it goes back to the old adage, right? The right time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The
That's right.
next best time is today. So I think, for business owners, and again, to your point, many, this may be their lifestyle business and they are not thinking about valuation. But at the end of the day, we all care about the value of what we bring to the table, right? The value of what we're building. And we all have a definitive time period where we're going to end. Maybe you're going to hand that off to your child. Maybe you're going to hand that off to somebody else. within the family. But either way, I think it's important even to talk to business owners about the fact that that is important, right? There is a value to that. Maybe there's business loans that you need. Well, you need to know, what is my business worth, to really get through some of that. So I think looking at those things, the time is now to really start looking at it and not waiting until you're ready to sell or you don't have a successor and you're done. You're tired, right? And now what do? Just drop the business and stop doing it? Unfortunately, I've seen, even in my own personal life, I've seen a couple friends, family members that have had small businesses and they really don't have a plan for that and they have no idea what to do next. So, helping and kind of staging some of that thing is a really high value as well.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think some of it is just teasing that discussion out, and building trust, obviously. And even for clients that or businesses that is more of a lifestyle business, then the value is around the lifestyle. You know, I have to imagine lots of business owners can identify with this really heavy dependency on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have a family, I have 6 children, the less dependent I can make the business on me personally
Right.
is an opportunity for me to give back to my family and my community and, all the other things.
And
Uh,
enjoy what you've built, right?
that's
That's
right.
should be the major thing, unless you're just a workaholic and you just love to work. The reality is hopefully you're building something so you can have some free time and some balance in life. So absolutely.
That's right. And AI gets I won't say a bad, there's a concern, obviously, that AI is going to put a lot of people out of work. And by the way, it is. That's a
In a lot of
reality.
ways, yeah.
However, for those willing, I think the bigger opportunity is to use AI to do the things that we don't want to do
Right.
and to just help us advance the business and, quite frankly, life in general much faster. Things are, yeah, you and I have both been in tech, I think, our whole lives. I've never seen things move so fast. I
Yeah.
mean, I was the guy on the phone convincing people that they needed to have internet access, which really makes me feel super old. It's true. Um, I think this makes that period of time. I mean, it look small.
Right.
Like things are going really, really fast, and so we can either be scared of it or we can use it to our advantage. And
Yeah.
so I'm trying to do the latter.
Well, and I'll ask you one last question, but I was reading a story about, like, even Nokia, right? When the cell phone, smartphone kind of revolution took place, and the CEO, when they closed the doors, kind of in tears, saying, "We didn't do anything wrong." And from his perspective, right, we didn't do anything wrong, but you didn't do the things that were going to get you to the next level. And I think that's where we are right now in this AI space, is if you're not engaged in it, you're going to go the way of Nokia or, Blockbuster Video, where you're not adapting to what's right in front of you, unfortunately. Um, the last question as we kind of wrap is, how do you want to help your customers? I know we've talked about some different things, but tactically, who are you looking to engage, and how do they get in contact to find out more about how you can help? What are some of the areas that you're looking to help customers in? I know we've talked kind of broadly around kind of end to end, but do you have some examples that you want to share of things that we're doing with clients that are helping them get over that hump and then broaden out to the enterprise?
Yeah, I mean, I could give you some examples. I don't, I it's a broad canvas.
Hmm.
So these are just examples.
Yeah, yeah.
But it could be. It just depends on the if there's a problem. If there's a
Hmm.
state problem, obviously we're going to solve that first, right?
Yeah.
Examples would be, I have a revenue problem. Maybe there's a lead gen problem. Maybe there's an onboarding issue that you want to make cleaner. having a knowledge base, like I mentioned, creating automation. Those are just some of the easier, some of the easier things. I mean, the sky's the limit in terms of, I don't think there's a business that exists where there's not opportunity for them to improve with this technology. So it's really just about having discussion and looking. And, what I'm hoping to bring to market in terms of size, you mentioned PwC or, one of the big consulting organizations. The Fortune 500 accounts have huge teams of people that are doing AI all day, every day. That's not what I want to do is help the medium-sized business, small to medium-sized business achieve enterprise grade and level strategy, technology, and process in a small and medium sized business. I mean, this technology gives what used to be a limitation, which is size. All of a sudden, that's an advantage. Like if you're the smaller, medium sized company and you can make decisions and you're not afraid to deploy some technology here, you're going to go way fast. The Fortune 500 guys, they have big teams of people to deploy these things. They also have lots of bureaucracy and, the things that make it go a little bit slower. So I think there's a real opportunity here, just like the internet provided opportunity to small businesses and medium-sized businesses. And for this podcast, and as I mentioned, this is the first one I've ever been a part of myself.
Well, you're doing fine. You're doing fine.
What I'm hoping to achieve here is I don't want to be overly prescriptive. What I want is to create a shared platform for collaboration and for learning. I mentioned I have 6 kids, and frequently when I'm talking to my children, I'm like, hey, I'm trying to tell you something that I really wish that I had known when I was your age. And we all do this, right? Maybe they listen, maybe they don't. A lot of times they don't. When they do, it's amazing.
Yeah, they'll remember it in 20 years.
Yeah, but that's what I want to accomplish here. It's like, hey, let's create a platform for business owners to say, hey, if I were you, this is something I learned the hard way, and I wish I'd known this. That's all I want to do is create a platform for sharing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I think, we'll kind of wrap up today with, from my perspective, I've been lucky enough to work with you in the past, to partner with you. I'm really looking forward to and excited about kind of the future of what you're planning, and happy to be along for the ride. I think, the way I would summarize, kind of our talk today is, I love the passion that you've brought to the table about this because you've experienced it yourself, right? I think so many times people get in it because it's the hot button, it's the topic of the week, and people just think there's a quick buck that can be made, but in reality, you're getting into it because you've seen the value of it yourself. And to me, that's important, right? That's something that I really think are anybody that's out there listening, you want to go to the person that's experienced it, felt the pain, and can walk you through the war wounds, as opposed to somebody that just got in it because it was the cool thing to do at the time. So to me, that's extremely important for people to understand. But then also the more strategic side of it that I love for it is, I've always had a passion for small businesses. I grew up in a family-owned business in construction, and it was one of those that went by the wayside, right? To be quite honest, because there wasn't a plan. And I love the fact that, we're talking about providing technology solutions for small businesses that can parallel what the big guys can afford and can maintain and can live in. I've always seen that as a big challenge from, the times when my mom did the bookkeeping for our construction company with no technology, literally paper and pen, and just working through math equations essentially, and bank statements. To the fact that we can now give people solutions that will help automate transaction tracking or things of that nature for managing expenses and those type of things. Again, as examples, but not limited to. And small businesses have all the same challenges that big businesses have.
Mhm.
when it comes to the things they have to do, right? The finance, the accounting, the operations, they they just have less resource. And the fact that we're focused on those smaller businesses and getting them those resources just in a different way is extremely powerful to me, and I think a huge reason why it will be a huge success. So,
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, it's been a great joy so far, and we don't have any interest in doing a transaction. Like
yeah,
the place that we want to fill is to be a really solid business partner who is good at business and happens to know technology pretty well and to be able to help apply it. And so it's just like, I guess the jewelry store, you have a friend in the business. Like
yeah,
that's really, how we want to play here. It's about relationships. We don't want to have a million clients. We want to have, a definitive amount of really good ones that we're close to, and we're invested both ways in one another's success. And I think relationships make the world go, and that's how we're approaching the business.
absolutely. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and sign off here. Thank you, all of you, for listening. If you've made it this far, thanks for sticking with us. This is John Anthony, CEO of Ivity AI, with his long story short.
Andy, you asked me, the way you contact is John at ivity.io, or you can look us up online at ivity.io.
Awesome.
All
Thank you,
right. Thank
everybody.
you. Thank you, Andy.